All right. So, hey, I'm BJA Armstrong. I'm sitting here with Jack Baytall today. And we get asked a lot of times random questions about real estate. So we've parked our friend Noreen in the room, and she's going to pepper us with a couple of questions, and we're going to see if we can answer them just based on our experience. So I don't have any books in front of me or behind me at the moment. So, am I waiting? I think we're waiting on Noreen. Or
so
you.
my first question for you is, what fires you up about real estate?
Am I answering this?
Oh yeah, you better, because I'm not ready.
All right. So what fires me up about real estate? I'd probably say that the biggest thing for me is helping people. Is really showing people the opportunity of home ownership and being able to take a look at houses out there and be able to see people's face light up. I think the other part of it is really being a real estate expert. There's other situations that I've been in where maybe not so good. So helping people in situations where the mortgage payment is a little bit more than what they can do. And being able to see people, I specialized in it for many years, being able to see people at that closing table, be able to see that relief off of their shoulders, right. To know that that's now behind them and they can move on with their life, that really pushed me for about 5 or 6 years,
right,
to be able to see that.
Yeah, on my side, honestly, my grandpa got into real estate like long time ago. We covered that already once before, but so I kind of just grew up with it. Honestly, it's what I learned how to do, so I kind of just stuck with it. But you're right. As you're in it, what happens is the people that are in it, whether it's other realtors, whether it's the affiliates with attorneys and bankers and all that stuff, you get an opportunity to just deal with lots and lots of people.
Yes.
And so that's always fun and challenging for me at the same time. So there you go.
So for the public, what's their benefit of having a real estate agent?
Number one benefit is probably just knowledge, right? I mean, you look at what happened to the market in 2010, 2008, 2010, where it just dove. What was really popular just before that was for sale by owner. And what happened, the most calls that we got, people that lost the most amount of money, were people that bought for sale by owner in 2007, 2008, because they just had no clue about what values were or anything else, right? You go to a for sale by owner and you just pay. And it looks good and whatever. You just don't have the expertise. So in terms of real dollars, that's one place I think you could just save. You can save a ton of money.
I think there's a huge aspect to the real estate industry that people don't realize, that there's parts of real estate that are just outside of just buying and selling a home, and teaching people how to do that and what that process of that is. So like for me, I just mentioned it, understanding what a short sale is and understanding what a bank owned and how you can help people get out of those situations is really making you an expert in the field and not just matching people up with homes. I think there's other things in real estate that sometimes the consumer doesn't realize that we have to become experts in.
Oh, no question.
And it goes back to knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other side of it is that it's a very emotional decision, right? When You've probably had a buyer like I have. They'll walk in the front door and they'll just start crying. This is it. This is the one I want. I love this house.
Yep.
And so part of our job is to be that neutral third party where it's like, whoa, right? Get control of yourself. We're going to make sure that we do this appropriately so that you don't.
Right.
So you don't just be emotional.
What's the age of windows and
right. Lots of questions
and things
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as real estate experts, do you still think real estate is a good investment for the average consumer?
For the average consumer, as far as a home goes, no question. I don't think historically there is no better investment, no more stable investment than real estate. Ironically, what happens when people start talking about investments, they peel off that 2008 to 2010 years. It's like the 2 years in the last 100 that real estate went down. You look at the stock market today in particular, we're down, right? So by far the most stable, and obviously if you're anywhere where you're just paying rent or doing something like that, it's just flushing it away.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So it's a different kind of investment, though. There are some people that will use it as a get-rich tool, and I do believe it's that. It can be that, but for the consumer mostly, it's not an investment kind of thing. It's this is my home, and it's the best possible way to protect your money in a home environment.
I also think to add on to that is grant programs and things like that people don't realize that they can actually incentivize themselves by getting these grants and getting basically free money.
Yeah, good point. The government puts out a ton of money to make sure that there are plenty of homeowners out there. Yeah.
So if you don't want to be a homeowner and you just want to be an investor, is fluffing and flipping still a great way to make money in real estate?
Whew. It depends on what you mean there. I think that to be a true great investor, that you really have to take a look at the numbers and put out an all-star product.
Right.
To put out a great product. I think the times of just taking and doing a paint job on a house and changing out carpet isn't going to fly today. I think the education on these younger generations, it's too high. They want everything to be perfect when they move in. So taking, what do they call it, putting lipstick on a pig?
Right.
That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I think making sure the numbers are truly there to be an investor, to truly put in new cabinets and new carpet and fix drywall and a roof and windows.
But you have to know what you're doing to do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't, Joe homeowner can't just go pull cabinets and do those things.
Right.
What I hear when you ask that question is get rich quick. And the answer is no. It is not a get rich quick scheme. It does not work. I've had clients that have lost their shirts doing it because they thought that, oh, this will be easy. It's just a few hours.
Info commercials on TV that you're watching just aren't working for flipping properties.
All right.
An investment from a personal perspective, if you were to invest in a career in real estate, getting your license, what is the benefit right now in the Bloomington area?
Oh, man. There's what looks like a crowded and competitive industry. It is, right? There's 400-ish agents in Bloomington Normal, which sounds like, hey, how am I ever going to, how could I compete? But the truth is, and Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, says it all the time, that the most successful realtor is not even in the business yet. Meaning that Jack and I have been in business. How long have you been in the business?
9 years.
9 years, right? We've been in the business a long time, which means that we're doing it the way that people taught us how to do it 9 years ago, 20 years ago in my case. I'm following that model. The new guys coming in, they know the internet. They know how to work the system differently than I do.
Oh, there's no doubt. I just said it to my team earlier today. I said, the all-star agent, we haven't even met them yet.
Right.
They're out there somewhere.
Right.
I also think that, with the amount of agents that we have, I think showing up and actually doing what you're supposed to be doing to help people on an everyday basis, I think people look at it as a hobby, and it's not a hobby.
Absolutely.
And the opportunity, if you do it, and you do it at a full scale and full on, the opportunity is endless.
Absolutely.
It's just the opportunities that come
And
up.
the 80-20 rule applies, right? So if there's 400 agents in Bloomington Normal, there's only 80 of them that are really, really doing any business that we're competing with. There's probably only 80.
Right.
And a question just came in on how does an agent provide value during a new construction build, or for that matter, how do they provide value?
Oh, brother. Do you want my builder hat on, or do you want my broker hat on?
Take one off, put the other one
I'll
on.
go from the agent
All right, there you
perspective. I think from an agent perspective, how we provide value in a new construction is being there with the client, being able to show them, and I would say helping the builder as well, from picking out cabinets and picking out colors and what's your paint colors and what kind of light fixture you're going to do here. I think from me, on my perspective, what I tell my team is be there, show up, be there at the meetings with the builders. Tell the builder, hey, I'll show them paint colors. I'll help with that stuff. Tell me what you want me to help with,
Right.
Because I think that's a good way to keep that relationship going, not only between your client but also with the builder. I'll also tell you that this part he might not work if he has his builder hat on. But I think protecting our clients to make sure that they're not getting jabbed a little bit on the price of an upgrade
Right.
is a big part.
And to be honest with you, that's probably where my answer was going to go with it is you have a responsibility to your client. I don't, right? So from a builder's perspective, you're my customer, you're not my client, which means that I represent me. If
Sure.
I'm the builder, I represent me, you represent you. That puts you a customer relationship, not a client relationship.
Right.
So it's different, and you're right. A realtor always needs to provide value to the client. The builder's not your client in that particular case. You wouldn't be representing me, you're representing your buyer. So you need to always be looking out for the client. We talked about buying for sale by owners and that stuff unrepresented. It's the same deal. You can go to a builder and you could spend $600,000 in the wrong neighborhood, and they would be calling you to sell it a year later, and you'd be going, dude, I can't sell this, right? The neighborhood's only worth this.
Right. It goes for lots too.
Yeah.
Very early on in the process too. Have an agent behind you on the lot size of things.
Right.
What a lot size is going for versus different subdivisions.
Right.
You might go to the builder and the builder might tell you it's a $100,000 lot. Well,
And
it's been selling for.
And it's funny. I don't want to incriminate myself here, but again, it really is important to establish that the builder is a customer relationship, and the agent is a client relationship. So just because the builder says, I'm going to make sure I do the right thing for you, he's really under no obligation to do that, any more so than, I go buy a car, they're under no obligation to make sure that I get a good deal. They're not, that's not the program, so, interesting.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
What do you think, what are you looking for? Put your builder hat on. What are you looking for from an agent?
I've had both. I've had good agents and I've had bad agents. So agents that show up on the first day and then they disappear and they never do anything again. I've had agents that just meddle all the way through. Some agents, honestly, will show their value by just nitpicking. Oh, we should have done this different. Should have done this different. And that's not value to me, right? And it's not value to your client, for that matter. So honestly, the best agents are the ones that will come alongside us. We'll sit in on meetings and provide intelligent responses, right? So what about this? What about this? It's really good feedback to get that different set of eyes on it. Design things, that shows up where an agent will give their input. I think that's worthwhile, particularly when you start talking about resale. How about a master bath, a tub in the master bath? Is that a big deal? I'd love for an agent to answer that. Right? It gets me off the hook a lot of times for having to do that. Right. So I think that's where the value shows up.
You talk about the value you get from giving to your client. What does the client need to do for you? What kind of expectations do you have of your client, and responsibilities do you feel like they have for you?
You mean the client has to do something? I don't know the answer to that. I think honesty is the one that shows up first, right? Where you go, don't tell me that, you don't look for houses at $500,000 when we're really only approved for $400,000, those kinds of things. But honestly, the client relationships that I have, we don't really get into that. So my clients, they'll show up and they'll be honest up front. They'll communicate with me, but those are guidelines that we establish right up front to say,
Sure.
Here's what communication looks like. Right. So, I'm not answering your question. Dancing.
I think, I don't think I'm going to dance. I think be real. I think understand that we're people just like
That's a good point.
just like they are. I think a lot of times what I'm looking for is being realistic in how you treat us. And I get it. I get that we're providing a service to you and we're getting paid to do that. But it comes into different plays where, I'm not going to answer the phone at 10 o'clock at night. And I think that's the reality that sometimes people don't want to hear all the time.
Yeah, there's no question. There are definitely clients that will take advantage of 7 o'clock on Sunday night wanting to make sure that you answer the call. There's a lot of that out there for sure.
And I think there's different time. I mean, if you're negotiating an offer, totally different, right? If they're going to write an offer, totally different.
How do you set that guideline up front, or do you?
I think it has to be set up right up front. So what we'll do is we'll have somebody come in for a consultation,
right.
And we'll go through the entire process of buying a home, all the way from getting pre-qualified with a lender and meeting with a lender. What happens when it's time to write an actual offer?
Right.
And I think in there you kind of set those expectations.
It's interesting when you talk about it on the buyer side, because I think normally it's easy for agents in particular to set the expectation with their listings, because you spend a fair amount of time together going through paperwork and talking about process, but not so much on the buyer side.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is something in an industry that I think needs to be a little bit more proactive with agents.
I think that's
is kind of going through that, but setting the expectations up front on how they want to be communicated with, how we want to be communicated with, what kind of time frames we're on, and what those expectations are, I think is a big part. To form that relationship and understand and be able to help each other get a win-win situation.
And at the same time, they have some expectations of you that you may or may not
realize.
Right, so on some level, you also get to choose in that moment whether you'll be in business with each other.
Sure.
You may say, "Ooh, I can't fulfill those expectations," and they may say the same about you.
Right.
I like that.
And on the subject of expectations, what do you think the 2016 market looks like for buyers and sellers?
Is it the same, buyer and seller? I guess there has to be a seller for every buyer, right? So, I think it looks really good. I mean, honestly, this is an intentional business. When I first started in the business, there were just buyers everywhere, right? So it didn't matter. You didn't have to try. when I say it's an intentional business, you have to try to sell a house, which means you have to have great pictures, you have to have great marketing, you have to have all of these things lined up. To work with and find buyers, it's the same. You have to be doing all of those other things for people to come and find value with what you're doing. But I think from a forecast perspective, I think in Bloomington Normal in particular, we're going to see 2017-16 work out just about like we did in 2015. I think it'd be a really good year. I don't think we're going to see a lot of increase or any drop.
Yeah. I'm not a big statistics guy, so we're going to go with your answer.
There you go. I'm right.
Do you see any big trends happening in real estate? Either in new construction or in that fluff or flip market or in improvements homeowners need to be focused on?
You talking about improvements in particular?
Yes.
Oh man, there's tons of trends. One of the fun things about new construction is it's different, and really what I see from our market, I really am stuck obviously in this 2008 2010. I'm still in the recession in my mind somewhere apparently, but every house was kind of looking the same, and what you're seeing now is this a little bit contemporary, maybe they call it transitional style moving into the market. And it's changing things fast to the point where we'll have a buyer come in and choose new construction and pay significantly more for it because it's an updated style versus some of those older ones. You look in some of these older neighborhoods and you start to see those houses sit and they start to feel a little bit stale. So opportunity in new construction, no question. I think people are always chasing a newer style, and that's what creates that fluff and flip opportunity. Some older neighborhoods, Hawthorne Hills, for example, I think you're starting to see what used to be a really high-end product. You're starting to see that flip product show up in there now.
Yep. I think on the foreclosure and bank-owned property side of things, I think nationally they're trying to say that it's going to be on the rise. You're going to start seeing those properties come back around. I'm not seeing it here. I think our market's a little bit different.
And we were insulated from that a little bit initially.
Yeah, we were, and I'm not seeing those numbers start to climb.
Yeah, a great opportunity for buyers maybe as we start talking even about different styles moving into the future is those older homes. So one way that you can get a really cool new and updated house, I think there's a rise of remodeling. In fact, I just read an article this morning about remodels. It was the CEO of Lowe's was predicting that Lowe's is going to have a banner year next year because of that remodeling.
I see that.
You take those houses, a $300,000 house in Hawthorne 1, right? It's a 25-year-old property, but you can take a house like that and drop $100,000, $150,000 in it and still be able to sell that house for $450,000 or $500,000, and you'll have a ton more house than you would if you went and bought it as new construction.
Right.
So remodel is probably one of the big untapped markets for us moving forward.
But what do you need to make sure that you know what you're investing is a good investment?
That's the agent representation that shows up, absolutely. Right. And I would argue that the public in general isn't good at spotting those, right? So as a builder, I can go identify those. As a realtor, you know when a great value shows up in a neighborhood. I don't think the public driving through Hawthorne Hills goes, I'm going to do that and I'm going to remodel it. I think that vision doesn't exist. So essentially, we create that vision.
Yeah, having that expert there to be able to show you exactly what the true value is of that particular neighborhood gives you that answer.
Without a doubt. No more questions?
I just drew a blank. I got so sucked into the remodel thing. I'm like, wow, you can.
I can't answer any more questions anyway. We'll plan to do this again. We'll answer more questions. Here's what would be super fun. If you would send us some questions, you can do it on my Facebook. You can do it. I suppose you can do it on Twitter, but I'm going to have to ask my friend Ben Miller to figure out how to do that for me. Do it on Facebook. Send me an email, bjarmstrong@bjarmstrong.com. You can text me. However you can get us questions. Ask us your real estate questions. I don't care if it's about construction, if it's about brokerage, if it's about selling, about buying, remodeling, you name it. You send them to me. We'll figure out. We'll get a little panel together like this, and we'll beat up your questions and see if we can get you good answers.